I'm confident that we are all current on the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. On Tuesday, aircraft disrupted the water and electricity supply for hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians as part of what the president of the nation called a growing Russian plot to bury the nation in darkness and cold and thwart peace discussions. As winter sets in, denying people of heat, electricity, and water, as well as expanding the use of so-called suicide drones that sink into their targets, have indicated the beginning of a new phase in Russian President Vladimir Putin's war. Vladimir Putin is viewed negatively by some, as an aggressor by others, and as a threat to more. And some regard him as a guy of worth and prompt action. Imagine how he was as a kid and as a father to his family. We will be looking at the roadmap of Vladimir Putin and how he became a president. Sit tight! Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, has been a closed book for as long as he's been in the public eye. There aren't many known details about how he really feels about international events or what drives him to make certain policy decisions. His private life has also been clouded by secrecy and suspicion in what was then known as Leningrad, USSR, but is now St. Petersburg, Russia. Putin was born in 1952, Anatoly Sobchak, subsequently one of the most important reform politicians of the Perestroika era, served as Putin's law professor at Leningrad State University, where he studied. He worked for the KGB, the CIA's Soviet-era rival organization, for 15 years. A number of American espionage books and films were centered on the intelligence agency, which served as an infamous Cold War emblem. Knowing all about his riddles, the world is once more terrified that Putin would invade Ukraine, Russia's western neighbor, and what this might entail for Ukraine's precarious democracy and the larger US and European security agreement that has been in place on the continent for decades. He married Lyudmila, a flight attendant, at that time in 1983. Maria and Katerina were their first two daughters. He left active KGB duty in 1990 with the rank of lieutenant colonel and relocated back to Russia to take the position of protector of Leningrad State University, where he was in charge of the university's external contacts. Soon after, Sobchak, St. Petersburg's first democratically elected mayor, hired Putin as his advisor. He rapidly gained Sobchak's trust and developed a reputation for getting things done. By 1994, he had attained the position of first deputy mayor. As Pavel Borodin, the Kremlin's top administrator, moved to Moscow in 1996, Putin joined the presidential staff as his deputy. Putin advanced in administrative roles and developed close to fellow Leningrader Anatoly Chubais. President Boris Yeltsin appointed Vladimir Putin director of the Federal Security Service, or the FSB, the domestic KGB replacement, in July 1998. Shortly after, Putin was appointed secretary of the powerful Security Council. In 1999, Yeltsin named Putin as prime minister while looking for an heir to take over his position. Putin's popularity increased despite the fact that he was essentially unknown when he began a well-planned military operation against Chechen separatist insurgents. The Russian public, worn out by years of Yeltsin's unpredictable behavior, admired Putin's composure and decisiveness under duress. Unity, a new political force, won the December parliamentary elections thanks to Putin's backing. Yeltsin abruptly announced his resignation on December 31, 1999, and appointed Putin as acting president. The austere and restrained Putin easily won the elections in March 2000 with around 53% of the vote, promising to restore a battered Russia. As president, he aimed to eradicate corruption and established a tightly controlled market economy. By separating Russia's 89 regions and republics into 7 new federal districts, each of which is led by a delegate chosen by the president, Putin quickly reasserted his authority over the country. The ability of regional governors to sit in the Federation Council, the upper house of the Russian parliament, was also taken away by him. Putin took action to curtail the influence of Russia's unpopular financiers and media moguls, the so-called oligarchs, by shutting down a number of media outlets and initiating legal action against other influential people. In 2002, Putin declared the military war over, although losses were still high. He faced a challenging situation in Chechnya, particularly from rebels who launched terrorist attacks in Moscow and guerrilla attacks on Russian troops from the region's mountains. Putin found fault with George W. Bush's 2001 decision to renege on the 1972 anti-ballistic missile treaty. He offered the use of Russian airspace for humanitarian deliveries and assistance in search and rescue operations in reaction to the September 11th attacks on the United States in 2001. He also guaranteed Russia's support and cooperation in the US-led effort against terrorists and their allies. Nevertheless, in 2002-2003, Putin sided with French President Jacques Chirac, German Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder, and others to reject American and British intentions to overthrow Saddam Hussein's regime in Iraq. In March 2004, Putin was handily re-elected as president, presiding over an economy that had experienced revival following a protracted recession in the 1990s. He paid the first ever visit by a Kremlin official to Israel in April 2005 to meet with Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. In the parliamentary elections held in December 2007, Putin's party, United Russia, garnered a resounding victory. The results confirmed Putin's authority, even though international observers and the Communist Party of the Russian Federation questioned the fairness of the elections. In 2008, after being required to do so by a constitutional clause, Putin appointed Dmitry Medvedev to succeed him. In a timely manner following Medvedev's resounding victory in the presidential election of March 2008, Putin made it known that he had agreed to lead the United Russia Party. Within hours of assuming office on May 7, 2008, Medvedev chose Putin as the nation's prime minister, fulfilling overwhelming expectations. The following day, the appointment was confirmed by the Russian parliament. Putin was still seen as a major force within the Kremlin, despite the fact that Medvedev became more assertive as his time went on. Despite rumors that Medvedev may seek re-election, he declared in September 2011 that he and Putin would switch roles if United Russia won the election. Putin was re-elected as president of Russia on March 4, 2012. Putin handed over leadership of the party to Medvedev by stepping down as chairman of United Russia before his inauguration. On May 7, 2012, he took office as president, and one of his first official acts was to name Medvedev as prime minister. Putin has tightened his hold on power over the past 2 decades by reshaping Russia's judicial system, media, and other institutions of government to fulfill his own whims. He has lavishly funded the armed forces, barred or imprisoned rival politicians and journalists, and courted the support of right-wing nationalist organizations. He altered Russia's constitution to allow him to rule through 2036, and possibly even longer. That's all for today's video, guys. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. See you in the next video. Cheers!